You're wearing clothes right now, and you've been wearing them your entire life. But here's the thing. Nobody ever told you why. Not really. You probably assumed it was obvious. Warmth, modesty, protection. But scientists recently discovered that the real reason humans started wearing clothes is far stranger, far older, and far more unsettling than any of that. And once you hear it, you'll never think about getting dressed the same way again. Let's rewind. Way back. We're talking 170,000 years ago, give or take. Modern humans, Homo sapiens, had already been walking the earth for tens of thousands of years by that point. We had big brains, we had fire, we had language probably, but we were naked. And here's what makes that strange. The earliest stone tools date back 2.5 million years. Humans had been crafting complex technology for millions of years before anyone thought to throw a piece of hide over their shoulders. So why the massive gap? What changed? What happened 170,000 years ago that suddenly made clothing not just useful, but necessary? The answer starts with something you'd never expect. A tiny, blood-sucking insect that's probably crawling on you right now. In the early 2000s, a group of geneticists decided to study lice, specifically the evolutionary split between head lice and body lice. Now, here's the thing about body lice. They're a little different from head lice. They don't live in hair, they live in fabric. They evolved specifically to cling to clothing fibers, and they can only survive near a human body if there's clothing involved. So the scientist asked a fascinating question. When did body lice first diverge from head lice? Because the moment that split happened, that's the moment humans first started wearing clothes regularly enough for an entirely new species to evolve around it. The answer? Roughly 170,000 years ago, right in the middle of an ice age, a severe global cold snap that pushed early humans to the brink. The kind of cold that doesn't forgive you for being naked. Clothing didn't start as fashion. It started as survival, stitched together in the middle of an extinction-level climate crisis. But that's only the beginning, because why we started wearing clothes and why we never stopped are two very different questions.
Fast forward to around 100,000 years ago. Humans are still around, but barely. Our population had crashed to as few as 10,000 individuals. Some estimates say even fewer. We were this close to disappearing forever. And during that period, something subtle but profound started happening. Researchers studying ancient shell beads and ochre pigments, early forms of decoration, noticed that humans weren't just trying to survive. They were trying to signal, to communicate, to say, I belong to this group. I believe what they believe. I am one of you. Clothing became one of the most powerful tools for that. Think about it. You can't see someone's beliefs. You can't see their tribe, their status, their loyalty, but you can see what they're wearing. And within milliseconds, your brain is already making judgments. Threat or ally, same tribe or different, trustworthy or dangerous. We didn't just wear clothes to stay warm. We wore them to be read. And that psychological function became so deeply embedded in human culture that today, 170,000 years later, you're still doing it. You chose what to wear this morning, partly because of how you wanted other people to perceive you. Maybe you didn't think about it consciously, but your brain did. Now here's where it gets really strange. Most animals that live in cold climates evolved thicker fur, more body fat, or biological adaptations to handle the temperature. Humans? We did the opposite. Researchers have found evidence that as humans started wearing clothes regularly, we actually lost body hair at an accelerated rate. Our skin became more exposed, not less. Our biological cold weather adaptations weakened over generations. We outsourced our survival to an external tool, and then we became dependent on it. No other animal on Earth has done this. We made ourselves biologically more vulnerable by creating something that made us temporarily comfortable. It's almost like we made a deal we couldn't take back. And once that deal was made, once clothing became part of human identity, human society, human psychology, there was no undoing it. But there's one more layer to this story, one that most documentaries skip entirely. Here's something archaeologists have quietly understood for decades, but rarely gets talked about in popular culture. Clothing didn't just change how humans survived. It changed how humans thought. When you cover your body, you change your relationship to it. You create a boundary between self and world. You create privacy. And privacy, once it exists, creates something entirely new in the human mind. A sense of an inner life, of hidden thoughts, of a self that other people can't fully access. Some anthropologists argue that the concept of the self, the feeling that there's a you inside that's separate from the world outside, deepened significantly as clothing became universal. Before clothes, you were fully visible. After clothes, you had a secret. And that secret, that private interior, may have fueled the explosion of art, ritual, storytelling, and symbolic thought that marks the great leap in human cognitive evolution. In other words, clothing didn't just keep us warm. It might be part of why we have imaginations at all. So the next time you get dressed in the morning, think about what you're actually doing. You're participating in a 170,000-year-old survival behavior. You're sending social signals your ancient ancestors would have recognized. You're maintaining a biological dependency that your body evolved into because of the very thing you're putting on. And maybe, just maybe, you're reinforcing the boundary between the self the world sees and the self only you know. That's not fashion. That's not modesty. That's not warmth. That's what it means to be human. What other everyday habits secretly shaped your brain? Subscribe. We go deep.